Hello, this is Deanna, and I am giving feedback on the Sharon Judy session. I looked at it and I listened to it through the lens of the Hello, this is Deanna, and I am giving feedback on the Sharon Judy session. I looked at it and I listened to it through the lens of the client therapist relationship and attachment, like the connection as it was moving through the session. And overall, it was so beautiful. I really appreciated being a witness to this way the two of you kind of like step by step navigated through what was being said, and like I was like unwrapping a package and what's inside of here, and then the next step unwrapping a package, what's inside of here, and deepening into it. So it was this like curious exploring what's under the next rock kind of experience. What felt really special was the language you two shared. There were times at the beginning, and there was that one special time when I think Judy was trying to figure out like what shoulder blades were or something, and you two were able to switch to your native tongue in order to kind of again figure it out together. And I felt like this like working together connection happening during those times. There was another time when you as a therapist were like, I don't know what that is either. Like, I don't know what that word is. And that just felt so honest and yeah, and grounding. It's like we're figuring this out and we're both humans in this experience. So that just felt really nourishing to see this dance or with language and the way that language and I'm guessing maybe culture also really brought you two together and created a bond. Um, One thing that I'm imagining could support with the connection, the therapist clinician, the therapist client connection would be having you as the clinician step a little more solidly into your role. So there were times where, for example, there was a time when you reflected to Judy around the hand on the chest. Judy was describing something and then put her hand to her chest, and you named it, and then you started. What I was imagining is that there was a you stepping into that world in a sense, or stepping into her experience and getting a view of it, and then began. I think you said something around, maybe that was a time when you said something around the triangle or I think that was the time. And when you did that, then what stood out, what I took note of, was you said, I don't want to go too far. And that, like, I held my breath in that moment because there was this. I imagined you were really with Judy in that, and then you pulled back. And if I recall correctly, Judy used what you were beginning to say and was able to deepen into her experience even more. She was like, you said this, and what now? And so continued on her journey. And so I'm really wanting to invite that there be more ease, more trust as a clinician to find that balance of being there with the client and their experience while also allowing them to own their own. And I think that that was kind of what you were grappling with in that moment. It just felt as though there was room for you at that moment, and then you kind of pulled back. Um, I There is something. Judy is great, is very good at therapy. There was a time when she said, oh, I touched on a root. And then there's other times when you invited her to, like, kind of put aside the thinking, the cerebral process, and drop back into the body. And that felt great because she looks very confident. And from what she was speaking around the younger part, there is a familiarity and a need to, like, take control of things, to be like holding it all. And so there is this, like, tendency to be in control and lead one's process. Maybe it feels safer. And I wonder where it could go if you could establish that solid leading from behind, so that you can hold that container for Judy, so that she can rest into the trust that you're holding it with her, sometimes maybe for her, that she can take that weight off of her shoulders sometimes. So yeah, finding that balance of allowing the client to be on that process, but and also seeing when it's the missing experience for the client, to kind of take some of the weight off and allow you to hold it for them, that you're right there and they can trust that you're going to hold it for them. I imagine that can be done through, I noticed a lot of verbal permission of the client for the experiment. When you're going to engage in experiment, there was a lot of getting permission. And I wonder if there would be more easing into it, and instead of verbal permission, maybe being able to track the nonverbal permission, so that, because each time there was the verbal asking for permission, it brought Judy back into her mind. So maybe if there could be more tracking of the nonverbal cues that she is with you, and that what is happening feels supportive, and there is agreement that we can skip the going into left hemisphere and just stay in the right hemisphere. And yeah, there was this time when you reflected, you said something loosened, and that was an invitation to drop into the experience. So just in that something loosened, the client was able to feel it, and then it led into another experience or ability for them to feel it. And so I wonder in that moment if there could be more. At that time, you were still kind of leading from behind. You said something loosened and you dropped that in. And I wonder at that time you can kind of now usher in and more invitation of slowing down. That's when your directive can come in, like around slowing down, of really noticing, really taking in the environment, and no need to put it into words just yet, but notice how it feels. Take it in with all of your senses. So really, like, expanding on that experience once you got Judy to that space of feeling, not thinking. Yeah, I think that's it. For the most part, I was hearing or experiencing this way of navigating someone who is so solidly able to lead on their own, and how you find your groundedness in your seat, at the therapist seat, to still know that you're offering. There's this article I read around being the neuro architect, the clinician as the neuro architect. So still, like, holding this scaffolding. So even if you want to walk on your own, like the little kid who's like 2 years old and wants to walk on their own, doesn't want to be held anymore, but still holding that scaffolding there, right there. And so that the client feels that holding, as they are kind of wanting to do it on their own for the time being, or lead it on their own for the time being. So Um, I hope that feels helpful. Thank you so much for allowing me to witness your process. Take care.